What is up? How we doing? Hopefully you guys are having a good Sunday evening. We are getting into it. Best Bet Live coming to you with event number 1 of the Card Player Poker Tour. $400 no limit hold'em tournament. 890 entries in this event. Almost 290,000 in the prize pool. And we are getting things going right out of the gate. You got myself, Ryan, also known as Country, joined by the analyst, Mike Kruger, card room manager, Best Bet Orange Park. Mike, how you doing today, man?
Pretty good. Excited for this final table, that's for sure.
Yeah, absolutely. And here we are, first hand, and look at Pablo. Got pocket queens.
And Kyle wakes up with ace-10 behind, but he lets it go.
Yeah, he does.
Could have got into some trouble there.
Wendy's going to call with 10-7 suited. And Allen with ace-10. Good story for Ryan. Oh, never mind. Allen's going to go ahead and rip it all in here. Allen, by the way, who was the short stack for the final day today, and he's worked his way to be here on the final table. And already first hand in, we're getting things going with Allen that's ripping all in.
Yeah, unfortunately for him, Pablo's waking up with a monster. Pablo, off the big stack, could be opening pretty light. Allen, with the shorter stack, has to shove. And like you said, Allen came in out of 104 players in 104th to start the day, so pretty amazing story for him.
Absolutely, but it may come to a stop in this one. We'll see here. Oh, two pair. Oh my gosh.
Oh, what a turn. Wow.
Wow. Oh, that's gross. That's the first hand. Yuck.
So that's how his comeback story comes to an end. It was pretty climactic. I wouldn't say that was too boring of a run out for sure.
What a massive cooler. Flop 2 pair, and then the queen comes on the turn to give Pablo the set. Yuck, yuck, yuck. Well,
it always feels bad when you get it in and hit your card before they re-get there on you. You know, just don't even let me suck out the first time. Let his queens just hold. Don't give me false hope.
Well, and Allen right out of the gate, our first elimination, first hand, didn't even get a chance to go over the payouts or anything like that. But there you saw the payouts. It's $60K up top for first place. Pablo eliminated in 9th place off the first hand. He is going to be taking home $4,972. Again, worked his way from being the short stack of the final day here to get to the final table. But, man, what a massive cooler.
Here we see Mike opening it up with King-10 suited. Kyle's going to call in position with Ace-Jack. Puts Scott in a pretty precarious spot with his pretty short stack. Kind of all options on the table for him there, shoving, folding, or calling. He elected just to call, see a flop, and play the hand in position.
Alrighty, we got 3 of you.
So here we are, 4-5 deuce flop. Kyle with
completely boring board for everybody.
Yeah.
See if anybody wants to take a stab at it. First person to bet would probably take this one down.
Let's check around. 7 on the turn. That does now give Scott a club draw.
Yeah, it's just a matter of which player wants to see the green light to try to steal this one away. And you can see Mike leading out for 300. Kyle with a player behind. Really tough to put in the call.
Yep.
Even though you might think your hand is good, you have a short stack behind you. So we do see Scott call with his flush draw.
Board does pair.
Yep. And as long as Mike continues the aggression, it's going to work. Take it down.
Absolutely. Strong play from Mike. Does take it down.
Early fireworks in this event.
Yeah, no.
This final table is not starting out too quiet.
No, we already had one elimination, and now here's the look at the chip stacks as well, as we are, you know, getting things going. Just again, fireworks are game. Let me take that card player logo off just for a quick second.
That was a nice pot for Mike to chip up. See that he went from around that 25 big blind range, which is putting him towards the middle or bottom. Got him all the way up to the second in chips. Just one pot.
100 to go.
Makes a big difference when you get to play in position against Pablo, who's the biggest stack, and everybody behind you is shorter. We're going to see Kyle open up with ace-10. Going to fold around to Chris on the button. He is going to let it go. And I'll see if Pablo can wake up with a hand worth defending, and ace-4 suited. Definitely worth at least calling out of the big blind. He might try to put some pressure on Kyle, especially with how short Scott is right now. When you have a guy with sub-10 big blinds and you have a big stack, you can really push around some of the medium stacks like this situation.
4-5-9 flop. Pablo does hit a 4.
So he does have the best hand. Never feeling great with bottom pair, but obviously Kyle's going to be opening with a lot of bigger cards, including Broadway that missed this board. Do you see Kyle put out a really small C-bet?
150K bet from Kyle.
You're going to see a lot smaller continuation bets in a tournament compared to a cash game, especially with how relatively short everybody's stack is.
Deuce on the turn, deuce of hearts.
And does bring a wheel draw for both players, holding the ace.
Pablo does elect to check here. Right now, Pablo is your chip stack leader, whether you see over 5 million in front of him, 51 bigs.
A River Queen might open the door for Kyle to represent having something like King Queen, Ace Queen, but Kyle does just check ace high behind. Pablo's going to scoop another pot. Rich get richer.
Yep. Now
Nikita over in the chat asking how many entries for event 1. There was a total of 890 entries for this event.
Yeah, big big entrance.
Huge
as far as
turnout.
that.
Yeah.
Yeah, big turnout. And you know, the fact that we almost tripled our 100K guarantee, almost 290,000 in the prize pool for today. Again, 60,000 up top for first place. If you guys type in exclamation point payouts, you guys will see that in the YouTube chat. For those watching on Facebook, yeah, we were able to get the Facebook back up and running, so you guys can watch on Facebook as well again. The payouts are pinned in the Facebook chat. And already first hand of the live stream was quite the doozy. Alan going all in with his remaining stack that he had left against Pablo with pocket queens, and Alan flopped 2 pair, but then the queen came on the turn to give Pablo the set. And yeah, already a really strong start for Pablo here on his final. Already came into the final table as well as the chip leader.
Yeah, Pablo in a really good position here. He's possibly the most experienced tournament player on this final table. He's won some events before. I'm sure he knows how to put that chip stack to use.
He also won a ring event down at
he had
South Florida.
Yeah, he may have had the greatest month in February of this year. He took down an event here during our Jacksonville series, took down a bounty event, and then he drove down to Pompano and won a World Series of Poker circuit ring. So, in addition to tons and tons of cashes over the years, he's definitely one of the most experienced tournament players. Knows how to close it out, having a couple wins very recently as well.
A couple other players to kind of keep your eye on. Bobby there in seat 4 has played quite a few of our final tables as well. He's pretty accomplished as far as tournament play goes. Wendy Lou, back on the live stream in the final table action as well. It's been a while since we've seen her, but here she is in the final table.
Yeah, it'd be a nice big comeback for her. She hasn't played tournaments too much recently, but
yeah,
when she used to grind them, there was one stretch in 2018 where she outright won the summer main event at Jacksonville, and then followed that up with a 3rd place in the winter main. So,
yeah,
another player that definitely has some deep final table experience.
And then another player sitting right beside Wendy, Kyle there in the 7 seat. We've seen him play a lot of our cash games and everything, but I believe for our events, this is his first final table that he's been able to get a part of.
Yeah, he did finish 28th in the Swing Series main. So he sniffed the final table, but didn't quite make it all the way there. But he did bag the chip lead in Flight 5 and started today number 2 overall. So
yeah,
he's not afraid to get in there. He's not going to fold his way to a pay jump either. Yeah, Aaron in the chat says Pablo is a crusher and a nice guy. It's a good combo to be.
It is very much so, yeah. Pablo's definitely one of my favorites to talk to in the room. As Aaron mentioned before, super nice guy, super chill.
Might be a theme across this final table, looking at a lot of familiar faces that are all relatively nice people. Generally, you see them stacking chips more often than losing them as well.
One head-to-head matchup I would like to see happen on this final table, which we'll probably maybe get to, is going to be Bobby and Pablo. I think they're two of the more aggressive players that will look to try to take any opportunity they can. I feel like those two are it'll be a fun heads-up situation if we get to that point. Scott, Queen Jack does let it go. Only 6 bigs left for him.
Johnny, get here.
Obviously, not a hand you want to get a shove called by. It's really hard to get called by worse than Queen Jack if you open shove there. And being under the gun, he's, you know, hoping, especially off the short stack, hoping somebody busts in this hand. Maybe he gets a nice ladder.
So Bobby's going to go ahead and raise it up to 250K, 250,000. Jack 10 suited. Action Pablo now pocket 6s.
And was definitely thinking about whether he wanted to put in the 3-bet or not. Again, with Scott having only 6 big blinds, everybody has to be a little bit aware there's a pay jump incoming, and they'll tighten up a little bit.
Does like the call. Wendy's going to be in there. King Deuce suited. She makes a call. So we got 3 players to the flop. Some suited clubs, pocket pair, Queen Tray 5. Pablo's 6s are in the lead.
Pablo presumably might put in the call here, getting to play this hand in position. Only 1 overcard to his pair. After we see Bobby c-bet. It's a little tough with a 3rd player in behind. Sure enough, he does let it go with that player behind him. I think if he knew Wendy was going to fold, obviously he would have peeled. Seen what Bobby chose to do on the turn. Yeah, once again, do appreciate everybody coming out, watching with us on a Sunday night. If there's anyone in particular you're rooting for, please let us know in chat. Let us know, you know, who's got the most fans out of this final table.
Yeah, I seen someone already say, you know, obviously talk about Pablo. Got another person saying rooting for Kyle. Listen, Kyle's been grinding as much as he can, and he was very, very happy to make this final table. Talked with him a little bit during the break once the final table was decided, and he was more or less pretty excited and also relieved at the same time to be able to make the final table here. So we see a raise from Chris. Ace 10 suited.
The shortest stack is in the big blind. So, wow, Mike waking up with aces.
So raise the 650 with Mike with the aces.
Yeah, pretty good sizing. Might tempt Chris to stay in. Also gets the short stack to shove, so fortunate for Scott. I mean, you look down at pocket 8s off of that chip stack, you are very excited. Instead, he's getting coolered, unfortunately.
Yeah.
That might let Chris off the hook here, but now he's getting such a good price, it's going to be hard to fold. But again, we had the shortest stack in the big blind, so the 3-bets are going to tend to lean on the much stronger side. knowing that the guy might put the last of his chips in the big blind in this scenario. You don't expect Mike to be 3-betting too light. But obviously, a lot of things to think about. So it looks like Facebook's rooting for Kyle. We got a couple of guys rooting for Mike over in YouTube.
Oh yeah, Brian
Chris
had a
does put in the full. Good full by Chris, being aware of the situation. See him do the see that little fist pump. That's just saving 4 big blinds off of a 24 big blind stack is pretty huge.
All right, so we are off to the races now. Pocket aces versus pocket eights. Aces still in the lead.
Yeah. No backdoor spades for either player.
Aces will hold.
Yep. So we do see Scott get eliminated, going out in 8th place, taking home 6K. Not the worst. Obviously, you want first place when you make it to a final table, but
yep. So there's a look at it. Scott is taking home over 6,000 for finishing in 8th place. So congrats to him. And then as far as chip stack goes, there it is. Pablo, 57 bigs, leading the table. Bobby up there as well. Mike is up there. Wendy's up there. Pat now, effectively your short stack, 15 bigs for Pat.
Team's got some workability, so it's not exactly the same as it just was with that 6 big blind stack still alive. But again, this is a good spot for Pablo to kind of keep the pressure on some people if he elects to do so. Definitely wakes up with a playable hand here. See if he keeps to the kind of standard 2.5 size open. He likes to go 3x, making it 3 big blinds. We see Mike calling with king at jack suited.
All right, 3 players at this flop.
Pat did complete.
King.
So Mike with the best hand right now. See if Pablo elects to put in a continuation bet multi-way. Obviously, he does hold a lot of the better hands in this scenario. With Mike not 3-betting, you can kind of eliminate kings, aces, and ace-king from his range, where Pablo, as the opener, could have all of those hands.
Pablo is going to go ahead and throw out 150.
Very small size. It is a polarizing continuation bet because the board is very, very dry. You either completely smash it by hitting the king or completely whiffed it, since usually you're not opening with a 6 in your hand.
5 on the turn.
The only thing it really brings is backdoor diamonds. It doesn't change too much. I would imagine Mike's going to play this hand fairly cautiously. It's very much a way behind or way ahead scenario. Pablo checking. He might put in a value bet here. He does elect to bet it. Probably one of those spots where you're not going to get 2 streets of value. You can either bet now on the turn or check it back to try to get some value on the river. If Pablo was holding a hand, say like a pocket pair between 6s and kings. I think that's what Mike is targeting with this size bet. And Pablo does let it go, so we see Mike take a pretty sizable pot off of Pablo. Obviously, if Mike can accumulate enough chips to take over that chip lead and have position on Pablo, that'd be a nice dynamic shift for him. I'm just going to answer a couple questions over in chat. I see Daniel asking, I just got here. 9th, was it Marvel Allen, was it? No, it was the other Al, DJ Al, Alan Franco. Any of our tournament players out there watching know exactly who that is. He's been around pretty much forever.
Yeah, he's been around for a long time. Unfortunately, very first hand of the live stream, he had ace-10. And went up against Pablo, pocket queens. Alan got 2 pair on the flop, but then the queen came on the turn. to give Pablo that hand. Pretty gross spot. But, you know, hey, Alan worked himself out of being the short stack of the day and was able to get to this final table, worked himself out of a pretty big hole. So good stuff to him for even making it to the final 9.
Just saw Mike G open it up and take it down again uncontested, so building some momentum for sure. He's been chipping up pretty quickly at this final table so far. For anybody watching that doesn't know Mike, he does not play a lot of tournaments. He just moved to this area about a year ago. He's in the Navy, moved over here near Orange Park, where I'm working at.
Oh, okay.
He's been playing poker pretty much his whole life. Big cash game player. Allegedly has a 13 handicap on the golf course as well, so he's pretty decent at a few things.
Yeah. And King 7 for Wendy.
Yeah, she's gonna get in the mix after all the big stacks kind of fold in front of her. It opens the door to try to start stealing the blinds. The three players behind her are obviously aren't on the biggest of chip stacks. Nobody's super short though either, so we're gonna see some people trying to take advantage of that and steal some pots away.
The ends of the table are feeling a little left. The middle.
They start out.
We're about to make our stand.
All right, Johnny Pham making the announcement. After this hand, the blinds will be increasing. We'll be going into the next level. 60K small, 120,000 big, 120,000 big blind ante. That's the next level. You see Pat is going to bump it up to 300,000. King Queen offsuit.
And he is the shortest stack right now, so let's see if anybody decides to go for the elimination. So just about a 3-bet and get it in or fold spot. And Pablo shows the 9 deuce. I can't battle with that hand, he says.
No,
obviously not. Jeremy in the chat asking, is this at Jack's Orange Park? This event is located at the Jacksonville location. For anybody unaware, we have 3 total locations here in Northeast Florida. This being the primary one at Jacksonville, as well as the room that I'm the manager of over in Orange Park, and then our 3rd newest location down in St. Augustine. And there we do see the chip counts. Pablo and Mike pretty much tied up top. Pat all by his lonesome down in the bottom.
Rich get richer, I guess.
It's not the worst dynamic for Pat to make a little bit of a comeback, though. The 2 players on his left can't take a hit of doubling him up, so he might be able to steal some blinds from the 2 players behind him. Obviously, he can't really steal from Pablo and Mike as much. Gets around to Pablo in the small blind. It's him and Mike, the 2 big stacks, in the blinds right now.
Pablo is going to go ahead and elect to call out of the small blind here with 7 tray suited.
And Mike having the option, seeing if he wants to raise the price of admission, getting to play this hand in position. They're both playing coy for right now.
Yeah.
There's been some battles already. They don't need to necessarily go crazy yet. 4-4 tray flop. We are going to see Pablo lead.
And bets 150,000. Mike lets it go. Pablo scoop up a little bit here.
Nice and simple pot. They're playing civil for a moment.
Yeah.
Jeremy, this is the final table. Yep. This is it.
890 entries in this event. Now down to our final 7. Final table did start at 9, but we've already seen 2 eliminations. That was Alan and Scott, who were our first 2 eliminations on the table.
That's fair.
Again, guys, if you like what you're watching, you like final table action, you like any poker action on the live stream, whether it's cash games or tournaments, make sure you hit that like and subscribe to our YouTube channel. Already over 9,000 subscribers. Greatly appreciate all you guys' support. Wendy's going to wake up here under the gun with pocket 9s, and that will be a raise from her.
That makes it 300K to go. 2.5 big blind open. And looks like it's just going to take it down until Kyle wakes up with pocket kings in the big.
Uh-oh. And these two
both players on a pretty shorter side of stacks. I mean, Kyle holding sub 20 big blinds. He could be 3-bet shoving a lot of hands. Just a question of whether he wants to 3-bet shove or 3-bet small.
Both their stacks are relatively similar. Wendy does have a few more bigs than Kyle.
740. 720.
720 is the raise from Kyle.
Yeah, went for a pretty small 3-bet, trying to just get as many chips in the middle as he can. Sets him up for a pot-size shove on the flop. Pretty good sizing. You know, puts 1.6 in the middle. He's got 1.4 behind.
Oh no!
Wow, 9-high flop. Wendy is gonna take this one. Unless a king comes out for Kyle.
Yeah, what a gross one there. Kyle just got.
Yeah.
Unless
really unfortunate for him.
Unless we see a wild king come on the turn. Ooh, 7
or
on the
8 for the chop.
All right, 8 for a chop. No, it does not. Wow. So
board
Wendy
does brick out.
Wow, Wendy gets a big one, and that puts her right with Pablo.
Yeah, really unfortunate for Kyle. You could see that he was set up for a flop shove pretty well. If that flop was a 7-6-5 instead of 9-6-5, I think Wendy's calling with the overpair. So just a very unfortunate 9-high flop for Kyle.
That's tough for Kyle. Rough one for him, but you know, Kyle does make it to the final table here, and he is going to be taking home $7,520 for 7th place. It's not too bad for a $400 buy-in. And we are now down to our final 6. And yeah, with that, again, yeah, Wendy puts her right behind Pablo after that pot. Wendy now only one big less than Pablo at the table.
With Mike is sitting between the two of them as well. Talk about all the chips being right there in a row between those 3 players. Almost unfortunate for Mike that Wendy now outchips him, since he had position on the big stack and the only people behind were shorter. I would imagine we're going to see Wendy keep opening whenever it's not Pablo or Mike's blinds, now with the shorter stacks behind her.
Cool. I'm in.
So here we saw Mike open it up from the button. I'm going to take it down. Only had to get through Wendy. There was no small blind with Kyle's elimination.
Yeah. She has a high fold.
Like,
that'd be hilarious.
Massive overbet, Wendy. I should have
done
that. Bowling Dude, yeah, unfortunately no live stream yesterday due to a few things. A lot of the players that were signed up for the PLO game were also playing in tournament. So unfortunately we were not able to get a live stream going yesterday. But here we are back at it today.
So yeah, seeing 890 total entries. I'm sure they were looking at that prize pool ballooning up and couldn't help themselves but fire a bullet or two in this event.
Oh, 100%.
I mean,
100%.
Cannot blame him. And Tanya says she's looking forward to Wednesday's Card Player Tour Ladies event, which does include the live stream.
Yep.
For anybody unaware, that live stream is going to kick off around 3 o'clock.
Actually, 7 o'clock. We won't start. Yeah, we won't start live streaming until after registration closes.
The event starts at 3 and the coverage starts a little bit afterwards. Gotcha.
Correct.
Gotcha. Which makes way more sense. Nobody wants to watch level 1.
No, nobody wants to watch level. No, that is for sure. But yes, we will start streaming a feature table after registration closes for that ladies event, and of course we'll do feature to final. But that event's always fun. It's always good to see the ladies battle it out. They always have
nice
a good time
bonus
too.
Wednesday coverage too. Not a normal stream night.
Yep.
I thought we played that again like an hour ago.
All right, Pat is going to be all in here with Jack 10 suited in the big blind.
Wow.
Pablo Jack 6 offsuit.
Yeah, he's just got to do the math now, seeing if he's getting the right price to call. Pablo was originally opening, trying to steal the blinds. Obviously, with the short stack, Pat being in the big blind. I think Pat's very much aware that Pablo is going to put those chips to use and try to steal his big. That's why we see him shoving on the lighter side with Jack 10.
Pablo will let it go.
Jack 10's a really good candidate for a shove there. A lot of times, if you think to yourself, well, the hand that has me slightly out-kicked fold, then it's a pretty good shove. Because a lot of times Queen Jack would fold to a shove. And if you get called by something like Ace King, it's still 60-40. You're very live. Never want to shove with hands that can get called by something completely dominating you. So, nice takedown for Pat.
It was my favorite hand. You gotta know what my favorite hand is.
Hey Shane, what's up, man? Good to see you. Hopefully doing well. Final table action. Also, as far as players, it's getting a lot of support from our chats. Wendy definitely getting a lot of support as well. Which, by the way, Friday night you'll see Wendy in our 1025 game we're going to have on this coming Friday. So,
getting ready to ask to see if we're going to see Kyle jump in there with that payout money, try to spin it up some more.
Maybe. I mean, that's also some cash you could use for the main event for the $1,700 mystery bounty.
Yeah, for anybody not aware, that is next weekend's event in this Card Player Tour. $1,700 main event with mystery bounty format. Going to be tons of fun.
Check 2, 3.
King 7-8
Nope.
flop.
Say nobody flopping a ton of fun in this one.
No, Chris did
Bottom
7.
pair for Chris.
Yep.
Pat with a gut shot, and Pablo with the chips in the betting lead. See him using the power position. C betting the king high board. Looks like Chris does not believe him. Puts in the call.
An ace on the turn. That also brings out a potential spade draw.
Man, that's going to be a card that Pablo gets to represent. He does have all the aces. You can see Chris kind of say, I think he turned me now. Knows that Pablo's going to bet that ace whether he has it or not, but probably hard to take a stand with bottom pair. Though he is thinking it over. Hey, just like you were talking about, here come some of those Wendy supporters over in chat.
Oh, and Chris decides to rip it all in.
He takes a stand. Excellent read by him. Realizing Pablo is representing the ace every time it comes out, whether he's got it or not. And
Pablo definitely surprised Pablo.
I was like,
Pablo go, wow.
Pablo was the pre-flop opener, so he's the one with the ace king, ace queen, pocket sevens, pocket eights, pocket kings. You know, all the massive hands here Pablo has. You don't normally see somebody out of the blind in this formation shove. I think Pablo's trying to figure out what Chris could even have. If you're Chris and you had a monster hand, you might continue to slow play. Oh, Scott in chat said there was no open pre-flop, it was a limp. You're correct. My apologies. I think that is what could really open the door for Chris there. You're right. Pablo can't have any of the massive hands.
Yeah, very nice move from
yeah, excellent. Thank you. Excellent read by Scott in the chat saying Pablo's never going to have an ace there because he didn't open pre-flop. That's 100% correct.
Oh, we all got to be on our best behavior now. We got the boss man in the YouTube chat. Jesse the boss. What's up, Jesse? Good to see you, man. Hopefully doing well.
All right, don't say any of the stuff that you said you were going to say, country. You know, wait till he says, "Have a good night, guys."
Yeah. Yeah. So very strong move from Chris to go ahead and rip it there and take it down.
As Daryl says over on YouTube, he got his hand caught in the cookie jar. That is for sure.
He did.
Perfect way to put it. And here's Pat waking up with a much-needed monster hand off his 13 big blind stack, waking up with ace king. 3-bet shoves over Mike's open. Could be an unfortunate spot for Mike. Might be giving some of those chips back.
Yeah, already 2.2 mil in the middle.
Only 10 more big blinds to call. Really close, but might be a mandatory call spot, unfortunately for him. He's getting about 2 to 1 on the call, so even if your opponent has a hand like pocket jacks, pocket queens, you're getting the right price. Plus, obviously, with how short Pat is, he could be shoving with some worse hands. You can see Mike's trying to get an exact chip count here. Run the numbers in his head real quick.
It is a big bet.
Yeah, might be more about the equity of keeping those chips more so than the actual price for right now being presented. Especially sitting between the two other big stacks in Pablo and Wendy, you don't want to start losing some of your chip stack and let them bully you.
Yeah, is your hand worth an additional 10 bigs and it's not, Mike will let it go.
And that looks to be the case. And Pat just climbing back. We saw him put in a nice 3-bet shove with Jack 10 not too long ago, and now shipping up nicely. He's getting close to that 20 big blind mark. Suddenly, once you hit 20 big blinds, there's just something about it. You can breathe a little bit comfier.
Yep. Again, guys, appreciate you all hanging out with us tonight. Appreciate you guys being with us for our final table. Event number 1 of the Card Player Poker Tour. It was a $400 buy-in, 890 entries total. We almost tripled our 100K guarantee in the prize pool. This is shade under 290,000 in total. And you see the payouts onto YouTube there. $60,752 going up top for first place. If you're watching on Facebook, you can go to the pinned comments. You'll see all the payouts for 1 through 9.
Same with 6 players remaining. They're all guaranteed right around a 9K payday already. Pay jumps are going to start playing a role here shortly. Going to see a 3-way pot here. Not often you see those after a early position open.
7 ace king. Wow. Chris flopped 2 pair. Wendy does catch a king. Broadway draw for Bobby, excuse me.
Fortunately for Wendy, she elected not to continuation bet. She would have definitely c-bet into a monster. Chris holding 2 pair there.
Chris is going to bet. Bobby's going to call.
Yeah, he's getting such a good price. I think that it invited him in, getting about 5-1, hoping to hit his gut shot and get paid.
Yeah, Wendy does let go of it. Gives her the green light to go ahead and fold. That's a number card. That's a 4. And it's a 4 on the turn.
So, complete brick on the turn. Only putting a second heart out there. But we see Bobby reaching for chips. He is not reading Chris for as strong of a hand as he has.
And with
Looks
that,
like Bobby thinks Chris was betting in position rather than betting with as strong of a hand as he has. And because Wendy got out of the way behind him, he thinks he's got the green light to bluff here. Which, from his perspective, Chris did not 3-bet, so he can't have ace-king. So it's going to be really tough to have 2 pair plus on this flop. Fortunately for him, Chris has that one random combo of ace-7 that just does flop a monster.
And Chris does like to go ahead and click the all-in button.
He does not want to slow play, just in case maybe Bobby has something like ace-x of hearts. You don't want to trap yourself. You'd rather just charge him right now and try to get it in against an inferior hand.
And
Especially if Bobby had a ace-4 or some sort of bigger ace, he'd probably have to put in the call.
Yeah. Now, if the stats are correct, he doesn't have Bobby quite covered.
It's going to be a massive chip swing either way.
Either way. Assuming Bobby does elect to hit the call button.
Yeah, so we see Chris took a nice big stand against Pablo, reading a situation really well not too long ago. And now immediately puts those chips to use again by waking up with a big hand, and suddenly he's going to be close to the chip lead. Like everyone in the chat swears Bobby's going to fold here. Sure enough, he does. So we see a massive chip go Chris's way.
Wow, just like that. Yeah, Chris is right up there with Pablo and Wendy.
And so that's going to push Bobby down to one of the shorter stacks for sure.
Shane
like
says
that.
Lots of tanking folding, tank folding when they're caught. Yeah, sounds about right. Definitely what we've been seeing so far for sure. Hey, look, they know they got the cameras on them, you know?
Now gets back, folds around to Chris, and looks down at Queen 10 offsuit. Suddenly he's got some chips to play with, so he's going to assess the situation and put in a raise.
I really like Chris's game so far. Been playing pretty well. His reads have been on point.
Yep, and here we see Bobby elect just to call with the ace-6 suited on the button. Thought he may 3-bet shove it now that he was down to about just under a sub-20 big blind stack. Usually players are pretty tempted to try and shove and get their chips back in that kind of a situation. I'm surprised he didn't do it.
All right, 8-jack, 8 flop here.
Yeah, so Chris with a gut shot. Elects to check rather than continuation bet. Bobby's going to check back his ace high. And
wow.
boom goes the dynamite for Chris.
Yeah.
9 on the turn.
I appreciate you dropped a boom goes the dynamite.
400.
Chris elects to bet. Thought he might be tempted to slow play that card. Should he have checked twice, I think we might have seen Bobby stab. Fortunately for him, Bobby has nothing, so he's not going to get paid with a straight, but obviously happy to take that pot down. The table just said he's on a roll.
Yeah, don't look now, but Chris has accumulated quite the stack in front of him now.
Mm-hmm. So Chris, a force to be reckoned with all of a sudden. Didn't see it coming. It's like Chris might be thinking about taking advantage of the heater he's on. Thinks better of it. Let's go with a 5-4. Thought about it for a second.
Like really wanting to test his run good right now, huh?
Can't win them all if you don't win them all.
True. Mike, you love
Mike.
King Queen suited.
Yeah. Big hand to wake up with in the small blind, and Wendy looks down at an ace in the big, so she's definitely going to call.
Mike does catch a king on this flop.
Yeah, Wendy is holding the ace of clubs, so should she decide to start bluffing at some point, she may. Mike did c-bet. Looks like on the rather small side.
Yeah, 250,000. Wendy will let it go.
Yeah, we haven't seen Mike get out of line too much, especially he hasn't shown down any bluffs. So not really a flop she wants to try to push him off of. Again, do appreciate everybody tuning in, chatting with us, hanging out. Definitely a eventful table so far. Been a fun one to watch here on a Sunday night.
I mean, fireworks. Right?
Yeah, first hand.
Yeah, for right out of the gate, first hand with flop 2 pair for Allen, and then Pablo turning the set of queens to kick this live stream off.
Yeah, one hand, one elimination. That's how we started things tonight. Gets around to Wendy in the small blind. Looks like she's reaching for some chips. Puts in the call at King 6, and Pat checks his option with an ace. I think the old version of Pat would have shoved there, but he's chipped up a little bit, and we've seen Bobby become the short stack. So maybe Pat's going to play a little bit more cautious. And Wendy decides to bet with top pair. Pat called the gut shot.
He's going to check around to the river.
Yeah, turn doesn't change anything other than bringing in 8-9, but they do check it down. Wendy is going to scoop this one, so Pat's hitting that little bit scarier mark. He's down to around 15 bigs. It's going to be him and Bobby, the two short stacks. Once again, appreciate everybody hanging out here. Coming to you from Best Bet Jacksonville. It's our live stream. We have cash games running regularly every Thursday, Friday, and Saturday night. And then we have this event tonight. We have the ladies event coming, bonus coverage on Wednesday night.
Yep.
And then next weekend, the card player main event featured table on Sunday. Final table on Monday.
Yep, it's going to be a lot of fun, for sure.
A lot of big cash games next weekend, too, right?
Yeah, this weekend, Thursday night, 5-10 no limit hold'em. Friday night, 10-25 no limit hold'em. There will not be a live stream on Saturday for this week because of the fact that we are doing the women's event on Wednesday. So there will not be a live stream on Saturday, but we will be back at it on Sunday with a feature table. Of course, it's good to see all those bounties get pulled, see who can potentially pull that massive 50K bounty. That'll be up for grabs. And then, as Mike mentioned, final table action will be on Monday. So we see Chris is going to bump it up to 360,000 in big blind. Ace 6 offsuit. Pat's going to let go of his hand.
Yeah, that was a good. He went with the 3x sizing, and with Pat's chip stack, Pat either has to shove or fold to a 3-blind raise. So I like the size out of Chris there. Kind of just puts Pat to a decision, and you get to either just take it down right now, or if Pat somehow finds the shove, you can just let it go. But yeah, I would imagine if you tried to run a game next Saturday, they'd all be in the event as well. Kind of what you ran into this weekend. So
yeah,
all those guys are going to be firing that after playing 10 1/4 on Friday night. Like you said, they're going to obviously be playing in the main on Saturday. Hard to get them to play in a cash game. 1,700 main with a mystery bounty format. Who's not gonna fire?
Right. Also, the fact that I remember the last mystery bounty event that we had Tyler pull the 50K bounty, the 25K bounty, and the 10K bounty. Essentially, took first place money just from the bounties, and he's still final table. So Tyler had a great run in that mystery bounty event. Yeah, let's go ahead and show the chip stacks for those that's just joining us. Wait for this hand to close so we get the actual accurate chip stacks. It's actually perfect timing too because we are moving into the next level. Small blinds are now 80,000, 160,000 big blind with a 160,000 big blind ante. And there's the way it looks. Yeah, Chris now effectively your chip leader. Wendy up there as well. Mike and Pablo, a little bit of a hit. And right now, Pat and Bobby are the 2 short stacks at this table.
I know. I try to stay away from the game. They still asking to play that. Can't go back and play hold'em.
Yeah, those short stacks are only, you know, 1 double up away, though, from flying into contention. We saw Chris kind of chip his way up fast and furious not too long ago. He went from kind of bottom of the pack to the top really, really fast. I know you were talking about Tyler having a good run at that mystery bounty event last year. Well,
160 to go.
Easy to forget Bobby sitting in seat 4 right now. He actually came in 3rd place in that event last year.
He did, yep.
So a couple people can have some fun in that one.
We mentioned before, yeah, Bobby's pretty accomplished when it comes to tournaments.
Yeah. I think the last event he won outright was just last summer. Took down our summer heater event #1 for right around 51K.
That is correct.
So, cool. See Pablo really thinking it over. Does think better of it, let it go. Pat getting some much needed chips. Extra life there.
Probably going to be 80, Mike going to be 160 twice.
I would imagine all of that final table experience that Bobby's got probably helps his comfort level suddenly being on the shorter stack right now. Kind of been there, done that. I have some experience. I know how to handle this situation. Got caught bluffing not too long ago. See a lot of people overreact to getting caught in those scenarios and maybe spew some chips off unnecessarily, but he hasn't acted out yet.
Bobby
I
elected
jinxed
to
it.
go all in. Yeah, wow. Does go all in. Oh, and he
Oh,
runs
my.
into a massive hand with Mike in the big blind.
I don't even know if Mike looked at both cards or just the ace, because
Yeah.
Bobby's shove was only about 9 bigs. Mike said classic race, ace king versus jack deuce. All 2 diamonds on the flop, and
Oh,
king.
Yep.
Yep, drawing dead. Bobby is going to be eliminated. So Bobby going out in 6th place. We'll see if he can be back at it again next week, defend his deep run in the mystery bounty. Since last time we ran it, he came in 3rd, and it's coming this next weekend. Sure, we'll see him again in action soon. Taking home 9K for his troubles. Not a bad day.
Not bad for Bobby.
Not bad for a $400 buy-in.
No. So that's the payouts. Yeah, Bobby taking home that 6th place money. And then a quick look at the chip stacks now. Mike, yeah, now ahead in his chip stack. Chris up there, Wendy up there as well. Pat still effectively the short stack, only 13 bigs left for Pat.
Up and flipping for $30,000. I mean, it's 35 to 60, which I think is ridiculous
I was
jump.
more than happy to tap.
But it have to be some kind of.
Chris looking down at ace king suited. Mike with ace king last hand. Chris with ace king this hand.
As long as it's reflective of, you know, I have 6 million and you have 2 million in chips, but we're all coming out with, you know, 4th, 3rd-ish.
Chris obviously going to open that ace king suited. Wendy's got one of those hands that are tempting to get in there with, especially at a decent price reduction, being in the big blind herself. But she does let it go. Really easy to trap yourself in there, put in the call.
Oh, wow, you got the advantage on all of it.
2:30 in the morning, though. That's what he didn't tell me.
Well, in that case, let's drag this out.
I mean, I would be fine with that. I do get paid by the hour, so I'd be okay with that.
I mean, I'm game for some late night poker.
Hey, you know?
You can tempt me in there anytime. I may not be getting paid by the hour like you, Mr. Big League, but I'll hang out with you all night doing this live stream.
Nothing wrong with that. Definitely would appreciate it for sure.
Chris with another hand.
Yeah, Chris is again. Yeah, ever since he made the big read on Pablo a few hands back, a lot of things have been going his way.
It almost feels like he's got rewarded for that excellent play.
Yeah.
You see him open it up to the same size, 400,000. It is a raise from under the gun. They are down to 5-handed, so under gun doesn't necessarily carry the exact same, you know, hand strength weight as it previously did, but
Sure.
still, nobody's gonna go out on a limb and think he's bluffing since he hasn't shown down any bluffs.
Well, and then Wendy here just flops 2 pair. Has
Yeah,
just dominated now, and Chris betting right into her.
It's definitely a board that he's going to continue on. Flop comes ace high, and you're the pre-flop raiser in position. You're going to see bet. See if she decides to slow play and put in only the call. It is a very wet board, so I'd imagine she is going to check raise.
Raise 900.
She is going to bump it up to 900.
Yeah, it's really tempting to just call there. I think, you know, as a player, you look down and you're like, you know, I've got it locked up, but even if you do have it locked up and he has something like ace-king, there's so many turn cards that can slow the action down. He's in position, so he could check it back if a scare card comes. Definitely a spot she wants to check raise. We can see the cards, and it's easy to say she should continue to try and trap him here, but
Yeah.
definitely like the check raise in that dynamic, especially given that board texture. So we do see her get some much needed chips. Takes a little bit of life out of Chris. The heater finally slowed down for him.
$160 to go.
Pablo looking down at a suited ace. He is suddenly hovering around that 20 big blind mark. He's been pretty quiet the last hour or so. But especially five-handed, you pretty mandatory open.
He does open up 330,000 and Wendy Ace King.
Yeah, and this is good. It was a good opening size from him. We've seen a lot of 400K opens, but given how short he is, he went for near min click because it accomplishes the same thing. And then because of that, we'll see him save 70,000. Assuming he's going to fold to Wendy's 3-bet. I guess pretty much the same result whether he opened to 400K or 330 like he did here.
Hey Johnny, can you do -1? Thank you.
See Pablo probably a little frustrated. Things haven't been going his way too much.
Yeah,
the last couple of orbits, and easy to think Wendy's picking on, easy to think I'm getting picked on. But good fold by him.
Yeah,
Didn't let the frustration get to him too much.
Yeah, really ever since literally the first hand of the live stream. Unfortunately, Pablo's been a little quiet.
He knocked out Al. He won a couple other little pots where he was bullying the table, and then we saw Chris make that one big stand with the 7 tray, kind of pick him off, and all the momentum went over to Chris and away from Pablo from that point on.
Yeah. Yeah, that was definitely the hand that definitely got the, especially the chats, got the chats talking.
Oh, yeah. We see Mike open it up with pocket 4s.
Pablo Queen 6 suited.
Yeah,
Also
he's just getting kind of too short to defend at this point.
Yep.
Can't really put in the call off an 18 blind stack with Queen 6 as much as you'd like to because it's suited and you want to defend your big. Just running out of ammunition to do so. So Rowan in the chat says missile ripping limbs. Missile is Mike's nickname for anybody unaware.
Gotcha. That makes sense. Team Missile makes sense too, since he is Navy.
Yep.
Right, so Chris now on the button, Queen 10 offsuit.
All in.
Pablo
Pablo go ahead and all in.
You can see Mike's gut reaction is this doesn't make sense. I think ace-8 might be too weak to put in the call, but Chris limping from the button alone is an interesting dynamic, and then Pablo just open ripping rather than putting in a smaller raise for value if he had a monster hand. See, Mike's alarm bells are going off, but ace-8's just too much on the weaker side. Maybe if Pablo had 10 bigs, he'd be putting in the call. Looks like action's back on Chris. Now he's got to think it over. Because he limped, it kind of opened the door for Pablo to bluff with an all-in. But we do see Chris lay down the Queen 10. Be interested to see that if Chris would have opened there, whether Pablo would have shoved or not. Not quite sure. Pretty close spot in that scenario.
Seemed like that was a little bit of vengeance after Chris read Pablo earlier, went all in. Pablo kind of returning the favor a little bit there.
It's like Pablo whispered to Mike, I had a monster. It's like Pat had to let it go under the gun. He's down to 10 bigs and going to be in the big blind next hand. A little bit of blood in the water for everybody. About a 4K pay jump between 5th and 4th, so
Yeah,
I'm sure they're all a little anxious to see somebody get eliminated.
Well, and these pay jumps are going to start skyrocketing even more as these players are laddering up.
Yeah, that's where having that 10 big blind stack still at the table is going to maybe have everybody play a little bit more on the cautious side.
Raise it up. Let's go with a total of 560.
So Wendy going to go ahead and put in the raise. Ace King offsuit.
Yeah, and I imagine to the rest of the table, Wendy is looking very aggressive right now. We've seen her 3-bet, check raise, play a lot of hands in the last 2 or 3 orbits. When in reality, she's just been having a big hand every time, but there's no way for them to know that, obviously.
Right.
Because this is the second time she's at Ace King and inside of like 6-7 hands.
Now Mike's going to put in the bet of 550.
Yeah, Wendy does have the wheel draw to go along with, you know, the nut ace high. She is going to call. Obviously beating all bluffs. And there is the 5 completing the wheel for Wendy.
These are also the
Mike does shut it down. Yep. Yeah, Mike does shut it down and check it over. Wendy's going to try to figure out what value she may be able to get out of a bet. See if she goes with a really small size. Potential for it to induce something here.
Yep,
and Mike does quickly fold. And again, she doesn't have to show it down. So I'm like beginning to wonder how interesting that's going to play into things. We've seen Wendy 3-bet multiple hands, check raise, take advantage of people checking. And just like that, look at her chip stack. She's building it up nicely. 1.5 times the next closest stack. So Wendy in a really nice spot.
160 to go.
Got Pat, the short stack is in the big blind. Let's see if anybody decides to attack his big blinds, given how short he is. He would have about 8 bigs behind, so any open is going to get either shoved on or folded to. Looks like we're going to see Mike open up from the button with a king, king deuce. Wendy looks down at a pretty good hand, ace 9. She is going to call, see what Pat elects to do out of the big. And for getting an insane price, he's going to put in the call and hope to flop a piece. He's got about a pot-sized bet behind. So, almost a pretty good stop-and-go spot for him. Until that flop comes out. Action quickly checks around on the Jack-10-4. Turn 4 doesn't change anything for anyone. Just ace high still in the lead for Wendy. No one with a flush or straight draw even to go with their hand.
Now Wendy, you're going to go ahead and bet 400,000. That should end this hand.
Yeah, she senses the weakness, knowing Mike would continuation bet should he have a piece on that flop. Obviously, Pat probably would have just shoved all in if he hit a pair on the flop as well. So she gets to take down yet another pot. She's overwhelmingly the chip leader at this point, closing in on double the next person. And at the same time, she can use that stack to her advantage because Pat is so short.
Yeah.
Everybody waiting for him to get eliminated with those middling chip stacks. She can push them around.
And unfortunately for Pat as well, these levels are going to continue to get bigger and bigger. The next level we'll be getting into is going to be 100,000 small, 200,000 big with the 200,000 big blind Annie. That's going to be the next level.
And here we see Wendy calls from the button with a 6-5. Pretty similar to last hand. She's going to be able to play the hand with some aggression, especially when it's Chris and Mike. Pat did fold out of the small, so he is sitting on 7 big blinds.
2-7 trade flop here.
Yeah, it prevents anybody from really going crazy and bluffing at it into Wendy. Mike with the wheel draw does c-bet. Wendy is on the gut shot. The same 4 that makes her straight would make Mike's wheel. That would be disastrous for him. She does let it go. Holding no hearts. 2 hearts on the board. And a player behind her.
You guys heading out?
So Mike gets to take down a pot there.
Give me 1 second.
There was a chance Wendy was going to continue her aggression and try to steal it from him. But the situation wasn't great for her to do so with the 3rd player behind. So, much needed chip up for Mike there.
160 to go.
Action does start on him before he even has his chips all the way stacked back up yet.
375 from 6.
And he's going to open it up yet again with ace-9.
Pocket trays for Wendy. She's going to go ahead and call. Where's pocket pairs in this, shorter table?
It's been multiple hands in a row now where we've seen Mike open and Wendy call.
Yep. And these two do have the biggest chip stacks right now. 8 Queen Jack.
200.
Mike's going to go ahead and fire out 200 here.
And goes for a small size. That's going to work. Nice spot for him to go with that small sizing.
Yeah.
If she has a hand like she has, she's just going to fold. She's going to continue if she has a piece, whether you make it 200 or 500, a good portion of the time. So going on the small size, not bloating the pot up, definitely preferred. It's why you see a lot of those smaller c-bets out of players, especially when you got somebody sitting on a sub 10 big blind stack over there in the 2-seat.
160 to go. Fold 2.
Oh, Pat.
Missiles are coming out in chat. Yeah. That was an excellent fold by Pat. Can't give him enough credit. I like this is in the chat. It's turned into some missile emojis.
Yeah.
I like this.
You know what? I'm a fan of that. If you're
what a very fortunate nickname.
Yeah, if you're rooting for Mike, go ahead and throw those missiles in the YouTube chat. Those missile emotes. Definitely show that support. Support for Wendy, some support for Mike.
I've seen some Pablo in there as well.
Yep, some Pablo as well.
I always love seeing people come out to root on, their favorites.
160
You got a friend at the final table. It's such a fun sweat when you got somebody to root for.
All right, here's Pat now. Going to go ahead and put the rest of his stack in under the gun. King Jack offsuit.
Yes. He is the shortest stack. Anybody wakes up with a hand, they're going to call.
Yeah, it doesn't look like it as of now, though. Wendy, Jack 9 suited.
It's another one of those really tempting hands, but you don't want to double somebody up. I don't think she's thinking about it too much right now, but I think there's almost a little bit of strategy to her folding here to let him stay alive, because she's able to bully those bigger stacks so well. Let him sit there with his 10 bigs and push around the guys with 30. Oh man, the missiles are firing over there in chat. That's pretty funny. Seeing the missiles come out.
Yeah, we gave them the permission, and there they are. But
yeah, Wendy does let it go. It was a good fold by her, obviously, looking at the cards.
Yeah.
It was just about pure hand strength. Now, Pat is immediately in the big blind anyway.
Right. Wendy did say she was 1 card away.
Yeah.
Does let it go.
Yeah, for some reason, Jack 10 just looks so much nicer than Jack 9.
Yeah. Well, now I'm seeing some missiles in the Facebook chat, too.
60 to go.
Firing on all cylinders.
All cylinders.
Fold 5.
I like it.
Fold 6.
Oh, really?
Raise to 400.
Here we go. Wendy is going to raise it up from the
Yeah.
small blind into Pat's big.
She's ace-7. She's like, this is a good hand to do this
This
with.
one I'll go all in against you with your 10 bigs. He looks down at 5 high, though. Can't imagine the chips are going in as much as
No.
she could be raising with just about any 2 cards there, stealing his big blind. 5 high, not exactly the hand you want to make a stand with.
Again, real quick, we'll show the payouts, what they are playing for right now. 5th place is going to be taking home $10,702. Then you start seeing the jumps. $4,000 jump between 5th and 4th. And those jumps get bigger and bigger.
Yeah, I mean, a 4K pay jump for a $400 buy-in event, you're going to see
Fold 5.
some people really, really sweating Pat's elimination on this table.
Yeah.
320 and 6.
Definitely some tighter play as well.
Fold 2.
It's just the nature of the game. I mean, you have to tighten up when there's somebody that short on your table. You don't want to commit ICM suicide by any means. Nope. Chris lets it go pretty easily. 9-4.
It wasn't getting through. It was flat back.
Bless you. Oh, it was you. Never mind. I take it back.
So anybody that missed some of the numbers earlier, this is Event 1, Card Player Tour. We had a total of 890 total entrants in this event. 104 came back to day 2, and now we're down to 5. Playing for a prize pool just over 289K.
Yep, 289,250 total prize pool. Almost tripled our 100K guarantee that we had. Wow, Wendy pocket trays again. It's going to bump it up.
Chris
pocket
Chris
fives.
does wake up with a pair.
Yeah. Into small blind.
And we have seen Wendy being very, very active.
Call. 400 to go.
Obviously, from their point of view, they think she might be playing a lot more aggressive than she has been. We have the benefit of seeing her waking up with some real hands. Ace-King a couple of times. 2 pair as well. On another one where she check-raised.
Alrighty, we are head.
Obviously, she has been putting that chip stack to use, though, as well, since she is currently the chip leader.
Queen 6-10 flop.
Both players with an underpair of the board. Let's go check. 9 on the turn. It's a question of whether either player wants to maybe turn their hand into a bluff at this point. Neither one does, and check to a Jack River, putting a 4-liner on the board. It's gonna. Neither one's gonna bluff at that board. And Chris's 5s will take it down.
Back of here too.
Pair versus pair, all overcards.
Yeah.
Slows it down for both.
And as you mentioned, as the way that board was running out, no one was able to take a stab at it.
Yeah, especially when the river puts a 4-liner out there and either player could be holding a king really easily. It's not a run out you want to start representing something. And again, that also goes back to, well, what used to be our short stack Pat.
Yeah, now he's
Still is with
all
9
in.
bigs, but
Yeah.
yeah, definitely an all-in. You almost feel bad for anybody that wakes up with something pretty decent behind, because they're going to have to put in the call for only 9 big blinds.
So Pat is all in.
Yeah, it looks
So
like
Chris
Chris
is already
has something. Is it Pop? So Pablo's the one thinking it over right now?
Yeah, I think Chris is folded, and
can
we're to see what Pablo.
You can see he's thinking it hard. It's really tough for him specifically because he's on about 20 bigs. So if he calls and loses, he becomes the short stack.
Yeah, you put yourself in a really bad hole.
Any of those other players with the 30-40 big blinds, if they call and lose...
Oh, never mind. No, Chris is still in. Okay, so Chris actually looks like he made the call.
Yeah, Chris put in the call, and now Pablo... Yeah, Pablo's got the 9 deuce. Here, we were reading the wrong opponent for strength.
Yeah.
Classic mistake I've made. It's cost me a lot. I'll talk about it. But Chris, unfortunately, waking up with ace-8 suited for him.
Oh, he's zoned out. Pablo's zoned out.
You ever click the check fold button?
Pablo folded mentally. Forgot to fold physically.
If you ever used to play online, you've done that live plenty of times. It's always a little check fold button.
Yeah. So we are off to the races. Pocket Kings versus Ace-8. This is for Pat's Tournament Life.
Hits the 8, needs the ace.
Does not happen.
Does not come, and big double up for Pat.
Now Chris is going to be the short stack, although not by much, but...
Yeah, it's going to be Pat, Chris, and Pablo all around the same chip stack, it looks like. Hovering in that 20 big blind range for all three.
And Pablo, it's funny because Pablo had 9 deuce. Of course, you can't continue with that hand with a player that's all in and calling in your tournament life.
So say he mentally folded and forgot to do it in real life.
Yeah.
All right, so I'm gonna be the last hand at this level.
Say Steve in chat says he's done it way too often. I know I have.
Yeah.
I know you're not an online guy, Country, but if you play online, there's a little button you can click that just says check fold. Or fold if it's pre-flop. And like you look down at a garbage hand, you just click the button and then you just stop paying attention.
Yeah.
That's what Pablo did there. Just
gotcha.
Click the little fold button. Fortunately, it was in his head.
I mean, listen, I've mentally checked out on quite a few things, so I mean, I can still relate.
And now we just saw 2 players fold an ace, and then it gets to Pablo. With ace-4, and he's going to open it up off the short stack. Hoping to get it through, and it does. One of those hands you have to raise, but you don't necessarily want a lot of resistance, so happy to take it down. As you heard, blinds are going up.
That they are, and that's going to make things even more interesting. With the blind levels continuing to increase.
Blinds go up. Yeah, Daryl says he's fallen asleep playing on the laptop a few times. Been there myself. Woken up to the alert that I've been eliminated. Everybody has at some point.
Oh yeah, with this dealer change, let's take a quick look at the stacks. Yeah, Wendy's still ahead. Mike is up there as well. Pat has worked his way out of it now, and now, as you mentioned, Mike, yeah, it's Pablo and Chris, essentially your short stacks. Below 20 bigs for both those players.
Yeah, it's basically 3 players kind of tied at the bottom and 2 players tied at the top. It's created some disparity.
Oh, that's right. 500.
Nobody overly deep, though. I mean, even the 40-50 big blind range, if you double up a 15-20 big blind stack, you're suddenly lost a big percentage of your chip stack.
Sure. One hand can still create a pretty big swing.
Yeah.
At least Jack 9
Chris open-ended here. Pat with the big 4 high. Chris did originally open under the gun. So he does put in the C bet, and I would imagine that's going to take it down that scary of a board for Pat's hand. Not a board Pat wants to bluff at, especially against an under the gun open. The missiles just keep on firing over there in the YouTube chat.
That they are. Mike's had a good run.
I don't know if he's a fan favorite or his name is the fan favorite, but either way, it's looking pretty fun.
Yeah.
At least you got one little emote over there. Cruz says that you're the GOAT.
Ah,
Mr. Tom Cruise.
When does the gray chips get colored up?
It would be after the next break.
500?
Like an hour and a half.
5 and the 6?
It's like Mike opened it up. Made it 500K to go. Queen 8 suited. Now Pat looks down at 5s.
yeah.
May want to shove off the 13 blind stack.
$1.1.
1.1 is what Pat's going to go in with his raise.
Yeah, likes to raise it up to an amount that's not an all-in. Gives him a little bit of wiggle room.
I see Chris, King Jack offsuit.
Yeah, I would imagine he's doing that just in case somehow Chris wakes up with a monster behind him and shoves. Then you can get off the 5s.
Super milky. You left yourself like a mil behind.
As Mike just points out, it's an interesting raise size. But I think that's, I would assume that's why Pat does it. You know, if Chris wakes up with aces behind him and shoves, then you can fold and have some life to fight another battle. Especially if Chris wakes up with a hand and shoves and Mike calls, you know your 5s are dead.
Yep. As he said, just leaving yourself a little bit of room.
Yeah, also that's something you would normally see players do with the big hands like aces and kings. You try to 3-bet as small as possible to get chips in the pot, so kind of, you know, mixing in some of those other hands you may not necessarily want action from. Playing them the same as you would your big premiums. Always a good strategy.
Hey guys, appreciate you guys hanging out with us for event number 1, our final table, Card Player Poker Tour. If you like what you're seeing, make sure you hit that like, make sure you subscribe to the channel. Also hit that bell notification for when we go live or whenever we do upload some highlight videos.
400,000.
That way you stay in the know. Again, appreciate all you guys hanging out with us. Now we got Chris and Pablo battling here, battle of the blinds. 5 king deuce flop.
Looks like Chris does not want to continue representing a big hand.
Ace on the turn. Now Chris is going to go ahead and fire out a bet.
As the pre-flop raiser, he's trying to represent an ace here. Pablo doesn't believe him. He might be able to just ship it and take it down. Kind of a reversal of what we saw earlier between these two. They've been battling quite a bit. Looks like Pablo is going to call. He does have a gut shot. Deuce changes nothing on the river. So, players sitting here with queen high and jack high in a raised pot. And Pablo has about a pot-sized shove behind. Chris checks it over. See if Pablo pulls the ripcord. Does check it back. Really read Chris for strength. You could tell he thought about going for it and didn't. He was kicking himself.
On the river, on the turn, I was gonna jam.
Yeah, Pablo showing some signs of frustration. A little bit of tilt settling in on him. Now I think Pablo is essentially the short stack.
Yeah, nothing's more frustrating than not going with your gut. It's, you know, a run out is a run out. But
yeah,
you get way more mad at yourself than you do the cards that fall. Especially when you have a really good gut instinct on the situation and just don't pull the trigger like he did there.
Right.
Easy to beat yourself up.
Yeah, because then second guessing starts taking effect there too. Which we have definitely seen the effects of what can happen with second guessing. Pablo not making any
Yeah.
second guessing here. He's going to go ahead and raise it up.
Looks down at an ace in the small blind with 10 bigs. Easy, easy shove.
Yep. Just go ahead and collect the blinds there and the ante.
Chop, chop, chop. Anybody? Chop?
Chop discussion. Don't think anyone is interested right now.
Andy says not yet.
It's too early. It's not 5.
I think it's going to be hard for Wendy to agree to one with her chip stack and experience.
Oh, yeah.
Given a few short stacks and the trepidation from some of the players in this final table. I don't think she's feeling too uncomfy. I think if the chip stack's leveled out, I could see them agreeing to it. Everybody on this table is pretty experienced. There's not some crazy guy at the final that you can get an easy double up from by any means.
No, it seems like the play's been really, really solid. Pretty close to the best as well.
Yeah, like Pablo sitting on 10 bigs. Always hard to arrange some sort of chop when there's a short stack in the field. It's like the chat does not want to chop. Bad viewership when the tournament ends.
Chat never wants to chop. Chat is
very anticlimactic.
Yeah.
Really kills the viewership when the stream is over.
Yep. Hey, listen, that's why the birth of No Chop Chuck happened.
Yeah, well, now we see Pablo limp the button, and Mike wakes up with a pretty big hand in the small blind. Mike does raise it up. And Wendy with an overcall.
Wow.
Yeah, she looks down at pocket eights, which is a huge hand in this scenario.
Pocket eights, queen nine offsuit for Pablo, who did limp the button. Now he is calling. So we got 3 players here.
Yeah, he's going to play this in position off his short stack. Big opportunity for him if he hits to pick up a ton of chips. Almost 2.3 million in the middle. And we see a 10-7-5. So top for Mike. Huge hand for him. Wendy's eights probably look pretty good. Only one overcard. It's not one of the cards like an ace, king, or queen that you'd be the most scared of.
Now Mike is going to throw in 850,000.
And might be a spot we see Wendy call. It is a big bet though, and multi-way. I feel like she may get away from it with Pablo behind.
Yeah.
Obvious with Pablo in there and how short he is, you can't imagine Mike is bluffing too often. Although it is possible.
Yeah, with him leading out this way.
Into 2 opponents, with one of them being very short. It's usually a pretty strong lead, but she may be interested in peeling one street here. If she calls and Pablo folds, she gets to play in position.
Yep. So she does make the
that's
call.
What
Pablo.
happens.
Yep, exactly what happens.
Got a chip leading pot in the middle right now.
4 million in the middle as we're heads up.
The winner of this pot will be the overwhelming chip leader.
Deuce on the turn.
Deuce. Brick turn.
Complete brick.
Mike has a pot size bet behind. See if he decides to continue for value or just take it down right here. I think both options are pretty valid. He can go with a smaller bet, assuming his hand is good for value.
And he does,
or he can go with go with a big bet. Put a hand like King 10 in a weird spot, or just deny equity to a flush draw, or straight draw, or combo draw. Taking down this pot is huge in terms of ICM, given how big it's going to be, and giving you the chip lead. Now the wheels are going to be turning for Wendy. Is Mike ever doing this with ace-X of clubs, for example? She obviously knows that if she calls and wins this pot, she's almost guaranteed a first or second place finish as well. So a lot of dynamics at play, a lot of ICM pressure with this one hand. You can see Mike is holding the ace of clubs. Wendy holding the 8 of clubs is blocking some of the semi-bluffs like 8-9, for example, or 6-8 of clubs as well. If you ever put your opponent on an ace-high flush draw, I think that'd be the one hand she goes after. She does let it go. Mike shows that he had the best hand, which will let her breathe a sigh of relief, but we see a massive, massive pot go Mike's way.
Yeah, pretty big hand.
He gets all the chips and a Corona.
Yep.
He gets all the chips, a Corona, and he's going to get all the missiles in chat.
Yep. So a big hand from Mike there.
Massive swing in the chips.
Yep. Yeah, big. I mean, again, that was a 4 before Mike's jam. There was 4 million in the middle. So either one of those players were going to get pretty hefty lead when it comes to the chip counts.
Yeah, I would imagine he's nearing double anybody else. Whew. Big, big pot going his way. See if he continues the aggression, putting them chips to use. Assume we're going to see an open shove from Pablo here. Looks down at Queen Jack with 8 bigs. Hard to wait for a better hand.
He's going to put in 500 right now.
And goes for the raise. Again, similar to what we saw with Pat earlier, I actually do like this raise a lot. The gut reaction is usually the open shove, but kind of like we saw with Pat, if he makes it 500 and for some reason 2 players get it all in behind you, you could fold and hope to take the pay jump with what's obviously an inferior hand. And everybody does fold, so Pablo getting a few bigs in there.
Looks like Johnny is taking away some of the smaller chips and giving a little color up right now.
And Mike has too many chips right now. Johnny's got to get some out of there. Just like that, Johnny has become the chip leader. At the end of the tournament, Johnny always ends up with the most chips, but never gets paid out. It's kind of amazing.
Yeah, it's always weird how that works out.
For anybody that doesn't know out there, Johnny, he's the one doing the color ups. He's our tournament director. Does an amazing job at all the locations running the bigger tournaments. So shout out to the Johnny, in case he ever watches it back.
Wendy, you want to put out 550, 9 deuce suited on the button.
Yeah, she's going to try to get some of them chips back she lost to Mike. Now, Chris got put in a pretty precarious spot, having to decide what to do with ace-9 offsuit after Pat calls. But he gets out of the way, lets them two go heads up to a flop.
4-7-7, so Pat's king high. He's in the lead. He's on check it over to Wendy, though.
Yeah, it's such a dry board. Good spot for Wendy to put out a pretty small C bet.
500. Does bet 500,000.
Yeah, it goes 1/3 pot.
Pat with his 2 overs.
Yeah, interesting to see if he wants to put in the check raise. Again, we talked about it for a while. Wendy has been seemingly quite aggressive. She's always had a hand when she's been aggressive, but the players all know that. Maybe he was tempted to check raise shove, try to re-steal.
He does let it
go. Yeah, and especially for Pat, he did such a, it's kind kind of like a long path to chipping up to not being the short stack. Now that Pablo has kind of become the short stack, you don't want to let that go to waste with a bluff, get you busted, miss out on that ladder. Kind of feel that you've earned it, you know. And now we.
Tired of you giving the deuces every time.
Now we see that aforementioned short stack Pablo. He's going to be in the big blind.
Yeah.
That works.
See if anybody tries to steal the big from him, knowing he's pretty much all in her fold.
Any card after that
Starting this hand with about a 10 big blind stack.
I feel like that flashed a little bit.
I did not slow it.
I wasn't even looking to see. If anything, Pablo saw it.
Mike wakes up with a pretty big hand, ace jack under the gun.
Yeah. Pretty good hand for him, and that's a good hand for him to go ahead and just start things off. Raising up to 500,000. Ace trade
Wendy with a hand.
Wendy.
Yeah, she can continue in position with this one. Pablo in the big blind has to just let it go again.
Yeah, King Deuce. So here we are, battle of hands holding an ace.
Repeat episode of these two battling.
And there is a tray.
Each hit a pair.
Wow.
So each hit a pair, just not top pair for either one.
No.
Quickly checked. Turn 9. See Mike bet tiny. Throws in a little 200. He can definitely get some value from different straight draws. A lot of things improved on that turn. I mean, Wendy might even be tempted to peel with just the tray.
She does make the call. And there's only one tray left in the deck.
Check.
River deuce. Changes nothing. Mike checks it. If Wendy thinks her tray might be good, she could check back, but if she thinks it's not good, which seems to be the case, she's going to try to represent something a little bit bigger than she's got, reading Mike for weakness.
And she does make the bet. Now the call has been made by Mike, and he's going to get another payoff there too. Mike almost
good call by Mike. Pretty quick too.
Yeah, he almost now has 10 million in front of him as far as his chip stack is concerned.
Just double anybody else. Nothing else. Good awareness by Mike to check that river and go bluff catching with his hand rather than bet for value. Especially on a king jack tray flop, he checked it over to Wendy. I think he assumes that Wendy would bet any king that she's holding. So if we can take the king out of her, hand range, your jack is probably good on such a brick river.
Pablo
just let her try to bluff.
Just heard Pablo mention the fact that he was holding King Deuce, which he was.
Yeah. Wendy with a big hand in a big spot, waking up with aces, and it's probably going to look like she's on tilt.
Yeah.
She just lost a couple of big pots in a row to Mike. Table might think she's steaming a little bit. Great situation to wake up with aces for her.
She is going to bet 550.
And you see Chris thinking it over. I don't think he would be doing this normally, but she has to look very tilted right now.
Yep.
And I think that's going to play to her favor on this one.
Mike is going to go ahead and call with 5-4 suited.
Yeah, getting a really good price out of the big because Chris called from the button. Prices Mike in to try to flop something huge.
Queen 7 deuce flop.
It might be the end of Wendy accumulating any chips on this hand. Neither player with anything to continue on this board.
Yeah, unfortunately it does not.
Would have been real interesting to see if either player hit any sort of pair, if they held on for dear life thinking she was tilting and bluffing. But as played, I would imagine she's going to c-bet. She is weighing her options here. What gets the most value? Is there any chance I can induce a bluff if I check? Really scary board to check on with the 2 diamonds.
800,000, the bet from Wendy.
And I think both players don't really believe her. Hard to bluff without a lot of even backdoor equity. I mean, Mike has some backdoor straights and backdoor flushes, but not the best candidate to bluff it at Wendy, even if you think she is bluffing here.
Chris and Mike both let it go.
Yeah, she does take it down. So fortunate for her pre-flop, a little unfortunate flop where she can't get any action with her monster. But at least it took the little bit of wind out of the losing sails from her chip stack. She gets to rake in a nice one there. Maybe build some of that momentum back towards herself.
You guys, plenty of tournament action still available. Card Player Poker Tour continuing through August 21st. Of course, we talked about it Wednesday being a ladies' event. $300 buy-in. We'll have featured a final table for that night on Wednesday, the 16th. And then, of course, the Mystery Bounty main event.
So it starts up at 7 on Wednesday, right?
Yep.
The live stream? Nice.
Yep. Yeah, it'll start after registration closes for that ladies' event. And, of course, the Mystery Bounty main event, $1,700 buy-in. 300K guaranteed in the prize pool. Bounty pools ranging anywhere from 500 to 50K. As always, guys, you can check out our website for all the tournament details, bestbetjacks.com. So, Pat
might see Pablo shove here.
Yeah, he's thinking about it.
Don't love it with how snug Pat has been, especially with him opening under the gun. That's what Pablo leans on and does let it go.
Yep. You can tell frustration's starting to hit for Pablo.
Yeah, well, maybe this will relieve his frustration because really fortunate for him, he decided to fold since Mike wakes up with queens behind him.
Yeah.
I mean, if he shoves there, he's almost surely eliminated on this hand. So
yeah, Mike does eliminate.
Little fortunate for him. Looks like Pat might put in the call.
Yeah, Pat's tournament life depending on this one. Queens versus ace-6.
Here we go. The missile with the ladies. The missiles are in chat. You're talking about the ladies event, and we see the missile wake up with 2 queens.
Yeah, I see all the parallels there.
Yeah.
10, king, 9 flop, 4 on the turn. That's going to do it. Mike is going to take this one down, and now Mike has over 12 million in front of him as far as his chip stack is concerned.
GG to Pat going out in 4th place. He battled really well in this final table.
I mean,
how short he was the vast majority of it.
I mean, yeah, Pat hung around as long as he could. Unfortunately, it doesn't work out for him as he just runs into a pretty big hand there.
Run into pocket queens, you run into pocket queens. Yeah, Pat taking home a little over 10K in this $400 event. Heck of an ROI. Definitely GG. Sending all the GGs to Pat.
Yep.
And there we see the chip stacks. Mike, over half the chips in play. Overwhelming chip lead. Only person kind of in range to clip at him is Wendy, who does get to have position on him moving forward.
Yeah, I don't know if you heard it, but the chop got brought up again, and Wendy said, no, let's play.
I mean, she does have the 2 short stacks behind her and position on the big stack. So if there was ever a time to say no, that's pretty good situation for you. And Pablo is hovering around a 10 big blind stack and Chris off of 15, so she has to think eliminations are coming.
And again, these pay jumps get bigger and bigger too.
And we do see the 2 short stacks in this hand. Pablo opened with ace-king. Chris defended with 5-4. Chris flopped open-ended. Looks like he's going to call Pablo's continuation bet. We're off to an ace on the turn. A huge turn card for Pablo. Pablo went from bluffing to how do I get the most value all of a sudden. Just one card there, ace on the turn.
Pablo's going to put in 600,000.
Yep, just trying to get Chris to put more chips in now. Pretty clearly turning the best hand. Chris trying to figure out if he's got the right price on his straight draw, but he does not and has to let it go. So Pablo taking a chunk out of Chris there puts them two around the same stack size. He's no longer the lone short stack. Then we got the two short stacks in the blinds on this hand. Pretty inevitable collision coming their way. Either the big stack steal their blinds, or those two have to battle it out. We're gonna see Mike open it up with ace-8. Looks like Wendy's gonna call it ace-jack suited. Big hand for Wendy. Short stacks are going to fold out of the blinds, so it's Mike v. Wendy yet again. Not a repeat episode, just deja vu. Got a 9-9 tray flop, 2 clubs, neither player holding any clubs. Mike put out a small c-bet. Wendy is going to call. Turn tray.
Double pair board.
Yeah, both players now just playing the ace high on the 2-pair on board, so.
Now we're just chopping it up.
With a 10 breaking out, they check. Both players happy with their ace high, given that run out. Chopping it up. Obviously the two short stacks probably rooting on Wendy and Mike getting it all in somehow. They're praying for the elimination. Right now everybody's guaranteed 14K, but goes up to, I think, 20, 23 for third. So massive pay jump.
While Johnny's doing a little bit of a color up, let's show those payout jumps real quick. But yeah, again, 14 to 23 to 37 to 60. Like, those are some significant pay jumps that we could potentially see.
So yeah, Pablo and Chris really hoping the other one busts before them. Obviously praying for a collision between Mike and Wendy again.
The last one. We got
Clearly,
125 right here.
clearly hoping that they get to see Mike eliminate Wendy somehow. That would get them a big payday out of nowhere.
And the levels are going up now. 100
Lines are up. Relative stacks are shorter. All-ins incoming.
So the blinds are up 125,000 small, 250,000 big, with a 250,000 big blind ante. 4 players remain. Again, we had 890 entries in event number 1. $400 no limit hold'em. Almost tripled the 100K guarantee in the prize pool. So Wendy's going to bump it up here. 700,000. Pablo in the small blind lets it go.
And he hates the situation he's in.
Yeah. Yeah, he knows he's got a battle.
Yeah, and he had the big stack behind him too. Really hard to shove light through either of those opponents. Pablo's got tons and tons of tournament experience. He's been on a multitude of final tables before. So as much as we can see him being on the more frustrated side of things, he's got the experience to navigate it correctly. Chris is going to have to fold under the gun. He gets to Pablo's button. He's got a fold with 10-4. We're just going to see the two bigger stacks, blind versus blind. Mike and Wendy again.
5-6 king, all hearts. Wendy with the tray of hearts.
Yeah, she does have a gut shot as well, but Don't need that when the heart comes in.
Nope.
Mike with trip 6s, best for value on the river.
Yeah. And Wendy got
Mike was checking in the dark pre-flop for the flop and as well as the turn. She's like, please. And she is holding the worst flush possible.
Yes.
It's not the easiest of snap calls by any means.
No.
Mike did bet small, but one big blind out of a 22 big blind stack does matter. And obviously it looks like a value bet. Don't necessarily put your opponent on a worse hand value betting here.
And unfortunately for Wendy, almost every other heart beats you. Actually, every heart.
Exactly, every heart,
beats
yeah.
you.
So that's why I say she's reading it for a value bet. And there's no value bets in general that are worse than your hand. So
yep.
We do see her let it go. Goes with her read. Which her reads have fared her pretty well tonight. You know, saw her lay down those 8s to Mike, who would have had her drawing near dead earlier when she thought about it for a while.
All in.
All right,
There
Pablo
we go,
now.
all in.
All in, under the gun, pocket 5s.
Mike looks down at ace, but he's going to let it go with the 2 players behind. Everybody's got to fold, and Pablo gets to steal one.
Yep.
Which turns Chris into the shorter stack for now.
Seems
Him
like
and
there's gonna be
Pablo about the same.
Yeah, it seems like there's gonna be a lot of back and forth at this moment. Who's gonna end up being the short stack? As you know, play is tightening up.
Yeah, and they're just so close in stack depth that there's not a I have to wait. I have to shove because I'm the shorter one. And, like Pablo and Chris are basically tied. You know, if one of them had 10 and the other one had 5, then it's more the pressure is on the 5 blind stack.
Yeah, like
Oh, here we go. Blind versus blind with the shorties. This could decide it. Chris, King 10 suited. He is going to shove into Pablo's big. Pablo looking down at 8-6 suited. Obviously a nice looking hand, but it's about absolute hand strength at this point, so he's got to let it go.
Yeah, unfortunately not for a tournament. Alright, so I think what's happening here is they're going to take a quick 5-minute break. Seems like they're just doing a quick restroom break, and Johnny and company are just going to go ahead while they're doing that is going to go ahead and color up a little bit. So I'll tell you what, we'll go ahead and take this 5-minute break with them. So we'll be back in just a few minutes as, again, they are taking a short break to, I guess, use the restroom, stretch out a little bit. So just
microwave some pizza rolls.
Yeah, that sounds actually good right now. So we'll take the break with them and come back in about 4 minutes, guys. Thanks for watching. We'll be back in just a minute, guys. So hang tight. Be right back.
What if you could do SEO smarter and faster With Wix, you can edit your meta tags, page by page, or all in one go. Modify your URLs, inspect all of them in one click, and more. Save time, customize freely with SEO on Wix.
It was our first time in Kyoto.
Oh yeah, it was a whole new thing for us. We stayed in a room in Takashi's home.
We told Takashi that we wanted to go to a nice sushi restaurant. He was like, I can teach you.
I think that's where the sushi party started. It was so funny. You got pretty good at it.
Yeah, I think I'm quite talented.
Rock stuff!
For the dream.
All right, we are back.
Yep, welcome back. We just got back from the break here. Just a quick little break they wanted to take real quick, kind of get up and stretch your legs and everything, and we're getting right back into the action.
Then first money and evens it out so everybody gets, 30-ish. 25-ish.
Again, you guys got myself, Ryan, also known as Country, joined by the analyst Mike Kruger. I almost said Mark, sorry about that. Mike Kruger, card room manager, Best Bet, Orange Park.
It'd be 25, 27, because I mean the pay jumps go from what?
Now it sounds like there's some. Now it sounds like there's some chop discussion.
125 probably. 125. 250.
It looks like it ended. I was hoping to hear if they were negotiating something, but
yeah,
looks like we're back to the regular scheduled programming.
Yeah,
Chris with Ace Tray suited. 13 bigs on the button. It's no wonder he didn't want to act before hearing what everybody said on the chop before playing this hand. Suited wheel ace. Libs from the button. Elected not to open.
If I took 55 and they divided the rest, what would it be for payout? Three-way chop, yeah.
Yeah, so it sounds like the chop discussion's starting to take place here.
Meanwhile, Mike flops a pair.
He does.
He does decide to lead right out with that pair. Chris with some backdoor hearts plus ace high. Puts in the call. Six on the turn. Does bring in like the 9-10 or 5-4 type hands, but obviously those were the hands kind of Chris was hoping he was calling when Mike bet out. So Mike gonna take this one down. The big stack continues to get bigger. Mike the Missile chipping up.
26-7? What's third place?
Third place is 33.
So everybody gets better than third place money. I'm just like, that extra 10K is a lot for the.
No, I'm not chopping for third place because I have more chips. You can't be chopping even.
Or you guys could do an ICM chop for the rest of it because you do have more chips.
Yeah.
So you get.
Just 125.
I'm sorry.
Yeah, all good. 250 to go, actually.
Sounds like Wendy definitely doesn't want to chop with the two shorter stacks still in. She thinks she can navigate herself towards heads up pretty well.
You're all good.
So it's not about Mike's stack, it's about the other two.
All of them.
No chop, and we see an open shove from Pablo. Ace jack from the button. Both blinds have to let it go. Pablo getting a little bit of life, shipping up to the 10 big blind mark.
Me too.
We got Wendy sitting on about 20 bigs. Chris hovering around that 10 blind mark as well. So it's definitely tight between those three for these paid jumps.
250.
Mike is going to let go of the 4 tray. And Wendy's going to give a walk to Chris. Obviously a very good spot for him. So definitely Chris rooting for a walk, especially when he looks down at 9 tray. Here we go with the 2 shorter stacks in the small and big blind. Always puts the most pressure and action on them.
250 to go. Hold 6.
Mike's gonna let it go. Let's see if Wendy decides to raise it up from the button with 5 tray. Trying to figure out exactly how deep each opponent is. She does put in the raise, trying to steal these blinds, keep herself comfortably in second place. See Chris get out of there. Pablo is going to put in the call at the 6-4 suited.
So 6-4 suited for Pablo. Trey suited for Wendy. Ace
Diamonds come for Pablo.
Yeah.
Can't imagine he's going to fold if she puts in out a C-bet here. Flopping the flush draw. And he does continuation bet. Pablo quickly shoves. It's going to be a huge swing. Pablo's going to slide into second place. Assuming he takes this one down from Wendy uncontested, which he does.
Yeah, big hand there for Pablo.
Yeah, flip-flopped Pablo and Wendy's positions almost. Puts Chris as the shortest stack by a couple of bigs. So every pot between any of them is going to matter a ton.
I mean, you take a look at these chip stacks, too. I mean, between Pablo, Chris, and Wendy, I mean, they're all relatively right there with each other.
Very, very tight.
250 to
Mike's got half the chips, and the other 3, it's almost equally divided between them.
And with the way
Wendy with another playable hand, Ace Jack.
And the way these pay jumps are too, I mean, it seems like, you know, Mike can kind of potentially maybe chill a little bit with how big of a lead
he's got both options. He's got really both options on the table. He can either sit back and chill when they're battling. Like, I mean, they've all been pretty active in attacking each other. But if they ever start getting passive, he can just kind of raise any 2 cards and steal the blinds left and right if they were folding for pay jumps. So he's definitely in a nice driver's seat position where he can kind of go with the flow, whatever the table presents. He's not forced into having to create any action. He can let them battle it out and bust themselves. Or he can try to steal the blinds, whichever he prefers.
Sure. That's, every option's available to him.
Here we see Pablo put in the call with Queen 10 suited. So it's going to be him and Wendy again. Just like last hand, these 2 players heads up to a flop.
9-8-6.
We might see a pretty similar situation to the last one. Yeah, Pablo does go all in. He is double gutted. Any 7 or jack would make him the straight. Wendy, just 2 overcards. 10 big blinds.
He does have Wendy covered here too. Assuming the stack counts are correct.
A real bad flop for her hand. She has to let it go. So Pablo, back-to-back big pots off of Wendy. He gets to just chip all the way up to 20 bigs. He was just at like 7 or 8 a few hands ago. So that's a heck of a turnaround for him. And now Wendy with like the dreaded 10 big blinds, her and Chris stuck at the bottom. And Wendy is going to be in the big blind this hand. Hoping to look down at something that can turn it around. See Chris fold. Pablo 9-7 suited on the button. He's got 20 bigs now. He's got a little bit of playability. He was pretty much in all in or fold status for so long. Imagine he's kind of still feeling that way. Just let it go.
Right, so Mike and Wendy now. King 5
both with
King 8.
Both with King High, huh?
Yep. Battle of the blinds. 6-9 deuce. He's going to check around. Ace on the turn. Does check around as well, and the eight's going to play for
Wendy's going to get it. Now that's a spot where I think most of the time Mike is just going to shove into a short stack big blind if he thought it was an opponent that might be on the tighter side looking for a pay jump. But we've obviously seen Wendy denying the chop. She's playing for the win. Maybe not somebody he wants to shove against too lightly. Now we're going to see the 2 shortest stacks in the blinds against each other again. Wendy and Chris. Pressure on the 2 of them to chip up and get closer to that 20 big blind mark that Pablo's got. Let's see Mike open the button with King Tray suited. Probably going to force out Wendy's King Tray suited. See if Chris can wake up with something in the big, but he looks down at 5-4 and lets it go, and Mike slowly but surely continuing to chip up more and more. And Pablo's kind of turned things in around a position where he can kind of wait for something a little bit better to come his way. He's not as handcuffed as he was just not too long ago. It's been real interesting with the dynamic shifts amongst these short stacks on this final table. Wendy looking down at an ace from the button. Does open it up close to 3 bigs. We see Pablo jam pocket trays. Looks down at a pair versus a button open. Pretty standard 10 big blind shove. And in a pretty tough spot. Easy to be dominated. You do have one of the better hands in ace high. Looks like she's going to have to do some accounting. We haven't seen very many light 3-bet shoves on this final table. I think that's obviously playing on in her mind. He'd be doing this with a stronger ace, which would have her drawing very thin. But would he be doing this with king-queen suited, for example? If so, then she may have to put in the call. Might just come down to her read of the situation. Pablo just recently did get those chips. Yeah. A lot of times when players do chip up recently, they tend not to spew them back, so maybe she thinks he's playing on the tighter range side of things on this hand. But we also haven't seen him play off of this stack size in quite a while. We've only seen him play off the sub 10 bigs and all in or fold a vast majority of the time. Definitely a tough spot. Don't envy the spot that Wendy's in right now. Not really a lot of information to draw a conclusion on. See, she's kind of looking for that key piece of info to make her decision.
Yeah.
There's not really much to draw it back to. This one's just going to come down to instinct for her.
Yep, how do you feel?
Yeah, she's gone with her gut most of the night, and it's been right the vast majority of the time.
She did announce
there it is, she does call.
Yep, so here we are, off to the races. This is for essentially Wendy's tournament life. Pocket trays for Pablo, ace-6 offsuit for Wendy, and an ace into window.
Yeah.
Huge
Wendy,
double
big
for Wendy.
Double up.
And that's going to put her miles ahead of Chris and Pablo again. She's back over 20 bigs. They're both sub 10. See, Pablo, you can fold.
And unfortunately for Pablo, that puts him right behind the 8-ball again.
Yeah. It was a good shove from Pablo, obviously. If the hand that calls you're flipping with takes that long to put in the call. Obviously a good shove. Almost got his opponent to fold a coin flip and take down all the dead chips in the middle.
It's a flip, man. That's what I'm saying. Like we're flipping for lots of money at this point.
You can see Pablo thinking that was not the best call. Letting his frustration show a little bit, thinking I shove so you fold that type of hand.
Sure.
It was unfortunate, making the right play, putting the pressure on your opponent correctly. And then they win the flip. Which, give Wendy credit, obviously, she's been playing for the win, has denied the chop and put her chips in there at risk when she could have folded and tried to ladder with Chris being short behind her. Wendy opening it up again with an ace. Gets back around to Mike in the big, and he's going to let it go as well. So Wendy stealing some blinds here. Pablo and Chris continuing to get shorter, more and more frustrated.
And again, these blind levels are going to get bigger and bigger too. So short stacks not only playing against each other, but also in a sense kind of playing against the clock with these levels getting bigger and bigger.
And here we see Chris looking down at King 10 off with 8 bigs. Interesting spot for him with another short stack Pablo behind, but he does have to shove. Not enough wiggle room for him to do much else. And he does get to take it down. So he chips up a little bit before the big blind hits him. It's always nice. Before you have to post your big blind and big blind ante. Dealing it the hand before feels like a free roll.
250 to go all in.
And Pablo going to go ahead and go all in with 6-4 offsuit under the gun.
He's sitting on 8 bigs, and on the next hand he would have to post 2 of them. And his shove here gets Chris to fold a lot. Fortunately for him, Chris wakes up with King Jack, puts in the call. Off we go to a run out. Jack 10. Chris just smashes it dead. Wow, that's going to be it for Pablo tonight. Very frustrating evening.
I thought I had pocket 6s. I thought I had pocket 6s.
Whoops. I don't think he did. I think he was attacking the other short stack in the big blind. It was a good spot to do so.
Pablo, you in our last longer bet?
And Pablo's night does come to an end. Pablo is going to take home 4th place money, though. $14,462 for him. And now we are down to 3. All playing for that 1st place prize.
And Chris, by knocking Pablo out, chipped up to being in contention with Wendy, which is pretty huge for him. I know he was looking for, maybe looking for a pay jump, hoping one of the bigger stacks knock out the shorty, but by doing it yourself, you suddenly have a ton of life, rather than just a pay jump to 3rd.
No, I'm with you.
So yeah, Chris and Wendy hovering around a similar chip stack. Give or take a few blinds. They're both around 20, and Mike has them doubled, holding about 40. See Mike take it down here.
Yes, please.
Looks like they're going to run numbers.
So I guess now down to the final 3, they are going to decide, run numbers to see if the numbers are going to be good enough to potentially do a 3-way chop. All right, so they're going to pause the clock for a second while they do discuss it.
I don't even know why I'm tanking, but I just want to like.
No, I mean, he played for 2 days to get here. Take your time, figure out.
Right.
I have 8, 10, 11, 11, 5. 11, 5. Yeah.
Well, while they're discussing it, I mean, we can go ahead and show the chip counts themselves so you guys can see where they're at. Yeah, 11.3 for Mike, 6 mil for Wendy, Chris 4.775 for him. And you see the players that were eliminated.
I mean, when like that guy was sitting there,
and now,
I'm like, I'm not chopping. Like, we're not doing a chop.
Wendy was clearly waiting out some of the short stacks. I think that's what she's saying. She didn't want to chop with 2 people shorter.
Right.
Now with Chris being a lot closer, when they get the numbers, should be more inclined to go with a chop since there isn't a 10 big blind stack out there.
I did it in Vegas one time. The guy asked me to chop. He was, chip leader. I was down to big blind. Come on, I'm gonna chop.
All right, Chris, you're going to be receiving $35,680. Mike, you received $47,237. Wendy, $38,576.
I'll do it.
Okay. All right.
Well, there we go.
There it is.
They did agree to a three-way chop ICM. We did update the payout information to reflect that. Those are the now official payouts. So Mike is going to be your card player Event 1 champion. His payout is going to be now $47,237 for him. Wendy will be coming in second place with the payout of $38,576. And for Chris, he will be taking home now new third place money, which is $35,680. So it is a three-way chop. Congratulations to Mike, the missile.
The missile emotes get it done tonight, huh?
Yeah, absolutely. So good stuff to Mike. Congratulations to him. And, hey, good stuff to good stuff to Mike Kruger for hopping on commentary.
When a Mike wins, it's good. It's good for all of the Mikes.
The world is a happier place when a Mike wins. Absolutely. But that's going to be it for tonight, guys. Again, thank you so much for watching. Event number 1 of the Card Player Poker Tour officially in the books now. As always, guys, appreciate you guys hanging out with us. Appreciate you guys watching with us. So we will be back at it Wednesday for the ladies event. On Wednesday, August 16th, we'll get the live stream up and running around 7 o'clock after registration does close for that women's event. $300 buy-in for the ladies. We will have featured final table action going on that night as well. And then, of course, Thursday night, 5-10 no limit hold'em cash game action. And then Friday night, 10-25 no limit hold'em cash game action. It's going to be a lot of fun. Our dealers tonight were Jacob and Seth. Mike, any final words from you before we officially wrap this up?
No, just once again, thanks everybody for tuning in, hanging out in chat, flying all the missiles you guys could come up with. And we'll talk to you guys all again soon.
Absolutely. All the missiles. Appreciate you guys hanging out with us. Appreciate you guys watching. Again, we'll be back at it on Wednesday night with more Card Player Poker Tour action with the ladies event, $300 buy-in. And again, thank you guys so much for hanging out with us. Thank you guys so much for watching. Until next time, thanks for liking, subscribing, all that fun stuff. We'll see you guys on Wednesday night. Take care. Be easy. Thanks for watching.